right, he's in our virtual green room, Shayl McHugh. He's written a book called Omnipotent, and it'll take you into a different direction, a different dimension, a different world completely. So, Shayl, I mean, the question is, why did you write this book?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I actually wrote this book because, it was a world that I made with my little brother, and we created it together as children, and we kind of built it since then. It's just something I wanted to write, for fun. I never planned on publishing it, actually.
Wow. And so then you publish it. What was that experience like? Wow, now you have this book out there.
Yeah, that experience was a lot more, it was a lot more intense than I expected because, the marketer really got into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a whole different world, that's for sure. All right, so tell us about the book. What's the gist of the book?
So the book, basically, it follows the two main characters, Luther Heren and Selvia. One of them is the lord of a city prepare to become king, and the other one is a Ninevere, who are historically known as bloodthirsty creatures. And it's basically through their journey as Selvia, a non-bloodthirsty Ninevere, enters his city for the first time, and him trying to deal with that while going to war.
Yeah, and by the way, the name of the book is Potter Omnipotent. Oh, yeah. So it is potent. It is like powerful, but so that's the correct title of the book. So what does that mean? Explain that term.
Potter Omnipotent is, within the book, it's the term that most of the characters refer to as, it's like a cult name for the new god. It's what they all expected the new god to be called, which is a full-blooded Ninevere.
And tell us about Nineveres. What are Nineveres like?
Nineveres were created by cultists. They're kind of like people, but, they generally go mad after they've gotten to a certain age. They're who cultists follow, most of them, but most of them, end up dying before they actually achieve anything because, like I said, they're crazy. So, yeah.
and so this was something that really you and your brother, you were talking about, you were kicking it around, and then this turns into the book, like you said at the beginning.
Yeah. This first book, it was one of our first stories. It wasn't the first story we ever made together, but it was one of them. It's kind of an origin story for our world.
Yeah. And when you create a world, it's just like the whole gaming thing that we're talking about. You flush it out, and you have all these characters. You talk about the bloodthirsty. You talk about the what it's like. You talk about the it's good versus evil, right?
Kind of, but it's not as black and white as good versus evil, because there's a lot of middle ground in there as well.
Yeah. So the world that you've been creating with your younger brother since you were 10 years old, and you have how many characters? I mean, don't you have hundreds of characters you want to flush out?
In my lifetime, if I can make this first book do well, I have thousands of years of lore and hundreds of characters in my head. Yeah, that I'd like to do something with.
Yeah. Tell me about Luther.
So Luther is kind of a tragedy. His parents were, he was born into lordship, so his parents weren't great. He kind of adopted the mantle at a young age, but he did really well with it because he's very intelligent. But throughout the book, he just keeps running into, tragedies or hardships that slowly drives him to, distrust and madness.
Distrust and madness. So there is a trilogy. I mean, you have these other ideas. Where do you take it? Where does the story go from here?
Well, I don't want to spoil too much, but a lot of the story is hinged on the main character Selvia's son, who is becomes a very important role throughout the rest of the series.
All right, so that would be the next place that you take us. Do you ever foresee this becoming like a game, becoming something in a gaming world?
I have no idea. I mean, I know that a lot of times books that become games aren't, well done. So if that did happen, I'd like to see it done with quality, but I mean, it would be cool to see.
It would be cool to see. And ultimately, what do you hope that people take away from this, that they get lost in the story and they want more?
I mean, hopefully. I would like, my biggest dream is to just have enough people to, enjoy my work, because I enjoy it, and I'd like to see other people enjoy it as well.
All right, so that's good reasons to do this. Shayl McHugh, thanks so much. And where can we get a copy of your book?
You can buy it at Writers Republic or Amazon or Barnes & Nobles. It's, there.
All right, so that's where you get it. All right, thanks, Shayl. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.